It's based on this reading from the Gospel according to John, the story that's commonly known as the woman at the well. How many of you have heard this story before? How many of you think you know the story pretty well? Oh, you're afraid to say it because you know David's back there going, I do. Well, I want to get something out of the way first. Something out of the way. There is nothing in this story. There is nothing in this story that says anything about the immorality of this woman. Can we get that straight? There is nothing here that speaks of the immorality of this woman. The truth is, we don't know why she went to the well, perhaps later than usual. We don't know why she had 5 husbands. Perhaps, given the short lifespan at the time of people, perhaps each of these husbands had died. Perhaps she was following the tradition regarding the marrying of widowed women. We don't know. So to assume immorality is most likely to project our own cultural biases onto this passage. So we've got that out of the way, right? Friends, the Samaritans were considered the people of the north at the time. They had believed that the correct place, the central place for worship, was Gerizim. And the Jews of Judea were in the south, and they vigorously disputed this claim. Eventually, the high priest had the altar of Gerizim destroyed, and Jerusalem would in fact be the central location for worship. These once united peoples, were now bitter enemies. So from the perspective of Jesus' people, the Samaritans were despised. So given that context, then, what's this all about? Now, what this is all about, there's probably 100 sermons in here. Aren't you happy to know that I'm going to preach only one? As I listened to the story this week, this is what I heard. This is an encounter story, told on the heels of the encounter with Nicodemus. Remember Nicodemus last week? Nicodemus, one of the elite. Unlike this woman, he was counted among the righteous. He had social and religious standing, and unlike her, he had a name. This is an encounter story, an unexpected encounter. For the unnamed woman, an unsolicited encounter. An encounter that transformed lives. It was an encounter between enemies, the despised and the righteous. An encounter initiated by Jesus. It was an encounter between what would have been considered the acceptable, a man, and the unacceptable, the woman. And it was an encounter initiated by Jesus. It was an encounter that shocked Jesus' friends and followers. Shocked them. The story implies that they were dumbstruck. They didn't say anything. It was an encounter that would have, in fact, degraded Jesus by social standards. It would have left him unclean. And he certainly should not be drinking out of a Samaritan cup or vessel. And yet this was an encounter initiated by Jesus. It was an encounter created a bond of recognition. A bond that lifted the veil for this woman. A bond that allowed her to see the divine Jesus. An encounter initiated by Jesus. Friends, this is a story of an encounter that transforms lives. Jesus approaches the woman unexpectedly. He speaks to her, and she talks back. She learns that he knows her, and she sees something of him in return. She is enlightened, seeing the presence of God, and she tells others. Now, there was nothing acceptable or expected in this encounter. The situation was all wrong. And who knows? Maybe because that was so, Jesus shows up, steps over long-held boundaries to meet her, and she is changed. Not only that, she tells others, and they come running. The transformation for the woman, perhaps if I were to give her a name, I'd call her wisdom. Perhaps maybe she was later recognized as maybe a new Moses. Who knows? But the transformation of this woman is not of her own initiative. Jesus initiates it. Friends, to encounter God is to be changed. It is to be transformed. To glimpse the Holy One is to be changed. Though it is often unexpected, we can learn to watch for it and even wait for it, especially in unexpected places. And I'm sorry to say, in very unexpected people. I know that's uncomfortable for many of us. And you know what? That encounter can even happen here in worship. Even among people with sometimes inflexible rules of social acceptability. And it can even happen among enemies. The Holy One approaches us. Do you remember your last encounter? The Holy